exhibit room. It's particularly fitting to have this new exhibit open to the public on the eve of the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Antietam. And we're very excited to have this done and to have it open for all of our visitors who we know, well, evidently starting today. I think the 150th is here, who are going to be passing through over the next few weeks. The thing about this exhibit that's really nice is it really provides us an opportunity to broaden the stories of the battlefield, to include the families who lived here, the aftermath of the battle, and its commemoration as well. And the objects that are on display that you're going to be seeing shortly downstairs, they really, to us, represent a tangible connection to the past that can't be found in books alone or even just with us talking to you. Noted material culture scholar Jules David Prawn wrote about objects, about artifacts. An artifact is something that happened in the past, but unlike other historical events, it continues to exist in our own time. Artifacts constitute the only class of historical events that occurred in the past but survive into the present. They can be re-experienced, they are authentic, primary historical material available for first-hand study. Artifacts are historical evidence. And so the objects and the companion interpretive panels that you're going to see in the new exhibit downstairs provide our visitors opportunities to make new connections with the past, and that's what's so exciting to us here. And I have to say that there are many, many people who worked to make this exhibit possible. And talk about the staff here at Antietam Battlefield. The interpretive division has worked tirelessly over the last several years to pull this exhibit together in terms of designing it, in terms of acquiring the objects that are in it. And I want to point out a couple of people, or a few people by name, who were really instrumental in pulling this exhibit together. Stephanie Gray, who's our Chief of Museum Services. Started this process. It was her vision initially. Park Ranger Keith Snyder. The design work, the most of the design work down there. Jane Custer, our Chief of the Cultural Resources. Hard work of working with the contractors and doing all the things that you have to do when you're going back and forth with those. And then Park Rangers Alan Schmidt and Manny Gentili. The objects and getting the casework designed and the casework completed. It really has been a group effort, and I also want to mention our maintenance staff as well, because they are the ones who did all the infrastructure work downstairs, the wiring, the new walls that had to go into place, the painting, everything to make this exhibit possible. So it really was a park effort to get this exhibit together. And also, I want to acknowledge and I want to thank all the people, many of whom are here this morning, who donated or loaned items for the exhibit. And made it possible. And I know many of these people are actually, they're local people, that they're descendants of the families who lived on the battlefield. So many of the objects that you're going to see are from the families who lived on the battlefield and their descendants. And we thank them for sharing all of these objects, all of these items with all the visitors now who are going to be coming to Antietam Battlefield. It's wonderful that these things can be shared with everyone. And so what I want to do at this time, I'd like to invite Juliana Albowitz up. She is representing Senator Barbara Mikulski, and she'd like to make a presentation to the park.
Thanks, Susan. Susan and I have known each other quite a while. As many of you know, she did come from Monocacy Battlefield, which is our neighboring Frederick County. We're glad to have you here, Susan. On behalf of Senator Mikulski, I have a senatorial certificate to present to Antietam National Battlefield Museum and Superintendent Susan Trail on the occasion of your grand opening of the museum exhibit room. In recognition of the new exhibit room at the museum, which will highlight the impact of the battle on the nation and the families that lived on the battlefield. Best wishes, and it's signed Barbara Mikulski, United States Senator, on the 7th of September, 2012. And the Senator would like to thank all of the volunteers and all the people who had helping hands in this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to present Park Ranger Alan Schmidt, who's going to also give us a few words about the exhibit and what we're going to see.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is so nice to have you all with us this morning. This is a wonderful occasion for us here at the park, and I thank all the folks that put their time and energy and hard work into us getting to this day. And I mostly this morning want to talk to our invited special guests this morning, our donors and loaners, and just let you know how much we do appreciate your effort in this and how much an essential part of all this you are, because let's face it, without artifacts, you couldn't have very much of a museum. So we thank you for that, and thank you that how things have worked out. We've been so fortunate in the last several years that things just seem to drop from the sky. We're looking for artifacts to present a particular story, and a phone call would come in. Hey, I've got such and such. Would you be interested? And I said, yes, we would. So it's worked out very well. But it is so important, and the generosity of the general public is the only thing that helps our park to run in every aspect of the way we do in programs and the preservation of the field and exhibits and things like this. Without your help, there'd be no way that we could do that, and we really appreciate that. We appreciate that you share your priceless heirloom with us and that we can then share that with the public. As Susan mentioned, we'll get to tell some different kinds of stories now and show you some different sides of the story. And our new room, basically our theme in there is going to be the impacts of the Battle of Antietam. Our existing room looks at the battle and the battle action and what happened, and for one day of battle, there were lots and lots of long-lasting impacts. So the three really big impacts we're going to look at in the room is, number one, the impact on the local area here and on the folks that lived here. Second big impact is going to be the often terrible impact that it had on the soldiers themselves that participated in this, and the tragic impacts and ultimately what we ended up having to do for their disposition on the field, and then eventually how they came back later to remember and reflect themselves here on the field. And our third big impact is going to be the impact on the nation itself. For all the loss and all the tragedy of Antietam, in the end it did result in hope. And our legacy here at Antietam is that it ended up resulting President Lincoln being able to issue the Emancipation Proclamation makes big, long-lasting impacts on our country. We'll look at that, and we'll also look at the impact of eventually having a facility here that you can come and learn, and folks for all ages can come and learn about this story and remember those that went before. Now, some of the things that you're going to see as we try to tell these stories, first of all, in the civilian aspect, we've got a lot of really special things from the families. Things like, for instance, for the Moomaw family, we have the only heirloom, only thing saved from the house before it was burned in the battle. They took the family watch with them. We have the watch. We have a letter the soldiers sent back apologizing for burning down the farm years later. We've got the coat of the last pastor in the Dunker Church across the street before it blew down in 1921, Reverend John Otto. We've got several items from a local lady named Nancy Campbell to kind of highlight a story that's definitely not looked at too much around here, at least from a park perspective, and that is the African-American experience. We can now put a name and a face, and many other items from her to highlight that side of the story as well. Got several things from the Roulette family. We have basically their entire parlor on one side of our room to show you that things maybe weren't as you would think they would be here in a country farmhouse along the Antietam. Very, very nice, elegant materials. But all that would be terribly impacted too. And we have a really nice big exhibit in front to show you that the impact would last a long time and it would literally make a mess of these folks' properties. We have things like a quilt made by a lady from the Miller family that was signed by a lot of the local families in the 1850s. You can see a literal connection right there in writing in front of you to almost every farm and every name that you pass on our driving tour. We have some really powerful items that highlight the impact on the soldiers. We have an original headboard from a battlefield burial from the field after the battle. We have a shovel that was used by the burial parties afterwards. Just unbelievable tangible things to really drive that home of what a terrible thing this was for so many that participated in the battle. We have several things highlight the founding of our National Cemetery, which was the beginning of any kind of establishment here at the park. And we have a really, really nice exhibit of all the commemorative items, of ribbons and medals and things that the soldiers themselves would have had when they came back here in the early days to have monument dedications, to have reunions, and to commemorate what had happened. Really nice big graphics, and I think we have a full-size, 2-scale Carmen map of the field. That's not that big, but it's just to try to emphasize this home. But in the end, we hope that you're proud of your part, that everybody played in this. We hope that you're happy with the exhibit, and we hope that you feel like we do, that we did what we could to make what in reality is a small basement room in a bomb shelter into something really special. And we thank you for your part in that, because we must remember in the end why we're here and why we do all of this. And that's because we remember 23,000 from September the 17th, 1862. We remember all the multitude that was impacted by this one day. And we remember the likely millions to come yet in the future that will come here to the park that we can share these stories with. Thank you so much for all this. Let's go see it.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Jane, we have 4 scissors, we have 5 of us here. We're going to do it. But the main people in the park who worked on it, Stephanie, Jane, Alan, Manny, and Keith, to cut the ribbon. We really appreciate all of you have done. So.
Okay, wait a minute, go stand.
Okay.
No, we got it right here. We got it right here. Are we ready? No. Yeah, could we stand together? All right.
Please go on down. I also want to let you know we have cake and cookies and drinks over here as well. So please help yourselves and come on down and take a look at the exhibit. Let us know what you think.